was no cord coming down from the wall. So I laughed so hard going, if that doesn't. Okay. Let's get our smooth jazz away. Let's do this. Everyone can see the next screen now. Do. I think it might just be you and I today, Derek. I don't think Sean's going to make it from his. I think he's still presenting at the conference. And then
Yeah.
Jenna's going to creep in the background later on. She likes being.
Creepers.
Yep. She enjoys the creepers, the leakers, the lurkers, the. Why do we do this on Monday, guys? I can never talk on Mondays. Whose stupid idea was this? Okay, everyone. We're gonna talk about YouTube. And it's really funny. I put up I was on an interview, and that was a life-changing moment or a first. I was on an interview called Empower. And it was with a lady that's part of Caldwell Securities, and it is promoted and sponsored by the Globe and Mail. And never in my life had I ever thought I'd experience the real TV world of, and countdown 3, 2, 1, camera 2, and move and smile. I'm going, and cha cha cha. It was the weirdest thing ever. But I started to take clips from it and using it on YouTube. And it was really interesting. One last night, a 30-second clip I threw up is, I think it has over 1,200 views already, just overnight. And I have the smallest YouTube channel. I have 87 subscribers now. Wow, right. I have, I think, 70 some videos on there. But my intent around YouTube is something completely different. And I think with Derek and I talking you through this and where the opportunities are, I think it's incredibly important. And I think this, in my opinion, Derek, is where you can help too in our whole team that we have together when we work together on how to formulate the questions and the pieces and way it goes through. So I really think that YouTube is mainly for awareness, alignment, and action. Again, and it's a piece that we don't utilize enough in financial services because we're afraid of compliance or we're fearful of looking like a fool or having to do things. It doesn't need to be a big, huge production. It can be very slow, very simplified. And I'm just going to, I just lost power and I'm scared I'm going to fry something again and lose you, right? But it's just completely about using it as a tool. So I was watching one of Sean's interviews on YouTube with one of his friends. And this gentleman, again, has all the plaques from YouTube and things like that. And he said something that stopped me in my tracks. And what he said and what this gentleman said was all the information out there for YouTube is about making YouTube your business. So if you want to be a content creator, if you want to be an influencer, well, then go listen to them. Right? But what we utilize YouTube for is actually to support your business. That's a really big difference on how you show up, what kind of content you're going to make, the timing around it, and how it's formulated, right? So when we really look at what we don't see and what we don't know, Derek, myself, Sean, we live in this world a lot about what places, what mediums are being utilized the most for people to go get information and educated. And YouTube is number one. Surely is number one. So when we're looking at it, and I pulled it out for one looking and seeking for advice around financial services. So millions of North Americans use YouTube for financial education, especially young adults, right? The report showing that YouTube is the top social platform for money tips, and it rivals Reddit. They're usually nearly a quarter of women use it for their finance. So that's interesting. Women go there more than men to become educated. And it's now starting to boost massive reach within 90% in the US Gen Z platform, and it's 85% in Canada. And this indicates huge, hard to pinpoint audience seeking financial advice. So here's one key point too of being really specific and intentional on your UVP, uncover, validate position, and what we go forward with. So the key statistics that we are looking at here that kind of happens, and I'm going to try and move this forward, and I just mucked it up again. Right? The trends that are happening. Young adults, they love YouTube. Gen Z, younger generation prefer it for financial information. Significant female audience, nearly a quarter, 24% of women in 2024 stated YouTube as their go-to platform for financial advice. So we sit here as regulated bodies going, whoa, you influencers. Well, they're there. They've cracked the code. That's where they're hanging out. A broad appeal. So YouTube is a platform used by a majority across all age groups, although younger adults are using it more frequent users, according to the P Research Center. So overall usage, 92%, 85 in Canada use YouTube to gather information and knowledge, showing a general education power. And I think this is large. And I'm going to pause here really quick and just ask Derek to comment on it because when I think about the opportunity just offhand of how we can structure the content, I'm going to go into it a little bit more here, but
Yeah.
just kind of seeing this first breath and what I said, what are your opinions and thoughts, Derek, on the missed opportunity and who you're
Yeah.
working with, what they're doing?
Yeah. First off, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you
cool.
now.
I am using a wireless microphone today
Oh,
for the first
look at
time.
you
So
getting all fancy.
I know. Well, welcome to the 21st century, Buck Rogers. So a couple of things stand out to me, and obviously this is information that I incorporate whenever I'm working with clients who are moving over to YouTube. The information here is invaluable. One, gives you an opportunity to understand the tremendous value you provide as a trained professional in this space. So much of the advice that's being given is coming from finfluencers. And I don't mean the qualified ones, I mean the ones who are essentially telling you to do all of the things wrong. You have a tremendous opportunity to come in and showcase your expertise. Having said that, a couple of other things that are really important. You already know who you're speaking to on this channel based on the research that Kim has done here. You want to tailor your messaging to the audiences who are showing up on YouTube the most, particularly if they align with your ideal clients. So obviously, YouTube is skewing slightly younger, so we'd want to adjust the messaging to reach out. Probably need to adjust the pop culture references, right? But you want to make sure that you're reaching out on the platform to the people who are showing up there. The other thing I think that is invaluable is that you have the opportunity to reach women investors on this platform. So again, you'd want to tailor your messaging so that you're reaching out to women who are coming to the channel to learn so that they can continue to outperform men as investors. These are two great opportunities for you. Again, just to make the slight adjustments, it doesn't mean you're starting over from scratch in terms of your messaging. It just means you can be even more targeted on this
Mm.
particular platform.
I love it. As you were speaking, I wrote down two notes. The first one is, we do notice the younger generations that are utilizing this, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of advisors when we look at it, like you and I will scour through YouTube, or not YouTube, LinkedIn, and there is a lot of firms holding themselves out as or talking to generations, right?
Yes.
The generational wealth transfer, what's happening, right? And we're going into this big, huge generational wealth transfer. So just because your ideal client target market that you work with right now is, let's say, a boomer,
Bingo.
if you state that you're serving the generational shift and framework, you better be having some content on YouTube, I think. I think it's an incredible opportunity because we forget about that part. So you want to keep the fence as tight as you can. So, yes, you're going to talk to your ideal client target market in a different way, but you also want to serve beyond the product that you sell the next generation to make sure that there's cohesion between the two. Because they're not going to come sit in the office with the advisor and all that education. They might, but the likelihood is a lot less. But they're going to watch a 20-minute video. right?
And they're also going to watch the reels that you produce from
Mhm.
that longer form content as well. So it gives you the opportunity to create a single piece of content that you can repurpose on the platform, and then of course move that over to social as well. So this is one of those wins that just proliferates for you in terms of creating content.
I
You
agree.
can basically build your entire content calendar around these longer form pieces, whether they're written or in video, and then we can help repurpose them so that you can bridge that gap between the 20-minute deep dive and the 30-second, 60-second clips that are so
Mhm.
valuable. And we can connect those so that your marketing is integrated and it's working across all of your channels too.
I agree. I agree. That other point that you said also, and that's in here too, about significant female audience. And so
Yeah.
we need to really take a big pause here, a huge pause, because again, it's all out there. The carriers are talking about, the distributors are talking about it. Everyone's talking about, the large wealth that is going to be handled by females that are coming through, the very strong female entrepreneurs that are coming through, that are taking more responsibility of the household, of the finances, which we really have done it all the time. And they felt shame's not the right word, but it's pretty darn close, right? Of what it is. They don't feel comfortable
Mhm.
because we have not solved the problem because it's continually coming up. So what do? They go into their private in their home and they listen and they get advice, right? Where someone isn't sitting there telling me what I need to do. And that's a massive difference that happens. So, in that behavioral psychology that happens, and when we re record this with Jenna on here, this is a massive point. So, if your target market audience is female, you better have a YouTube channel
Yeah.
because it's very strong. Because women don't live in this world of don't tell me what I need, listen to what I want, and they will take action. Men, just tell me what I need. What do I need to do? Right? That's it. That's how they work. So when we look at it, and I talk about this a lot about women lead in community and collaboration, that's the wants, right? Men lead with efficiencies. That's a just tell me what I need, right? So it's a very interesting key point, and I think whoever is going to service the female or the females in financial services, if that's your target client, I would lean deeply into this part and work with us to help you pull all this together, right? Because I think it's extremely strong. So when we look at the little pieces that we can do to help you, so within our coaching and the approach, everything that we do in the baseline and enriched, there's a formula that we go through in a baseline, and it's the impact blueprint that we go and we kind of figure out. So within that impact blueprint, we go through your unique value proposition so you know who you are, who you want to talk to in the right way, all that beautiful stuff, uncover, validate, position. And then also within that blueprint, we have pillars and intentions. And in those pillars and intentions, it really just is 5 items within your action plan for the year. And so within every pillar that you are going to lead with intent, we don't want you to have no more than 3 actionables that you are going to do for the year. And under those 5 pillars, one of them is ideal client target market. So the question that I kind of set you up with that we'll get into later on with Tap In, or if you work on one with me, or you work with us in our full marketing agency of Enriched, that question is, what are you going to do to retain tracked clients beyond business as usual? So the table stakes stuff that you need to do, everything that compliance says you need to do beyond the product. So there's 6 things that I pulled out of ideas that you can utilize for YouTube. And we can also purpose them in other ways. If you don't want to just use YouTube as your medium, like don't just think and close your mind and think this is only YouTube. This is an incredible formula to distribute in the way that makes sense for you. Okay. So build a client success library. This is about helping to serve and retain your ideal client market. So notice the brackets after each point that I put in there to show you what this will help do. So create 6 to 12 short, clear videos that answer the top questions your ideal client asks every year. This is powerful stuff, especially with AEO coming up. right? Like Derek's gonna love this stuff. It is perfect that it's just Derek and I today because he's gonna be like, yeah. So these become onboarding support. So just imagine like the questions, what happens after I apply for the insurance, right? So you sell a client a product. We know that if we sell insurance, you actually have to sell that product 3 or 4 times. You have to sell the client, right? If there's an accountant and lawyer involved, you have to sell them, get them to say yes. You have to have the underwriters to say yes. And then you have to have the client to say yes again at settlement. So, what can you do to help them understand that whole entire process? Imagine a quick video that would talk about those pieces and help. So, meeting prep work or pre work, right? Just have a little quick video or a little summary. I do think videos are better. Again, we talked about using this on different mediums, but video is better because there's a deeper connection that happens. You gain their trust so much faster if they hear you talk for 2 minutes, right? So, meeting pre work. So, bring this, bring that. And hey, send me a note and tell me what your favorite thing is to drink so I make sure I have it ready. Very clear, succinct, and just on point, right? Post meeting reinforcement. You can have that on your YouTube channel of, okay, we have just met. You've gone with all these documents and pieces. We discussed when we're meeting next. Just something really clear and really easy. Our minds need it. People need it. And they are not the professionals that understand how this whole entire process works, right? So tools clients can share with their family members, right? This is that part when I talk about beyond the product that you sell. So you've sold a product, great, fantastic. But little tools that they can use help them understand and educate them, right? Because we want to educate, we want to entertain, we want to tell stories, and we want to engage. Imagine if you had just a quick little video. It's a new investment client that came through, and it was grandma. Oh, wouldn't it be a great story, right? Grandma wants to bring on their grandson to start investing and watched a couple of your YouTube videos. And now you've got a YouTube video to understand and educate the grandson the rule of 72, teaching him compounding interest. Not bad, right? So why does this matter? It makes your advice repeatable, consistent, and scalable. The client will always feel supported between meetings. This is the biggest pain point so many advisors have. Right? A client purchases a product, it gets put in place, and they don't hear from you for a very long time, no matter the situation or circumstance, the client or you or whatever it may be. So, how do we fill in that gap? How do we continue that momentum of that incredible conversation that you had in the beginning? Derek, do you want to chime on here, or do you want me to go to the next one, hun?
Again, this is there are so many opportunities here, and I love the point that you're making about scalability and repeatability.
Yeah.
As with the longer form content that can be repurposed, you shoot these videos, you're going to tweak them over time, of course, right? Your firm continues to evolve, your thinking continues to evolve, your ideal client base continues to evolve. But for all intents and purposes, you're creating evergreen content. So it may be, perhaps you're a natural in front of the camera, but if you're not, a slightly torturous experience to get the takes that you need. However, we're here to help with that, so don't feel as though that's an obstacle for you. But for all intents and purposes, you're getting content in the can that you can then scale and repeat. So you're really just sending this out, whether it's a follow-up email that's going out or a quick little how-to video that you're providing, or Kim, as you say, that library of shareable resources. And these don't all have to live on YouTube. They can live on your firm's website as well. And again, we can coordinate that. But keep that in mind too, is this is a wonderful opportunity for you to use video to provide those free resources that then lead to the familiarity that sets up the discovery calls that are not, hey, what do you do? But rather, I'm ready to work with you. And that all important client retention. Like you say, Kim, video is such a great way to create the personal touches that are becoming increasingly important. So getting a system in place that allows you to shoot video comfortably and confidently so that then we can put it in all of the places that are going to be to your best advantage is such an asset to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Ryan's on here today too, and Ryan and I were chatting about what the next phase looks like, and he shows up really well in video. He has it planned out and does wonderful things with it. And then that other part of that next phase of, and it's funny how we're almost going backwards, but I think he's actually going to have a bigger take on it. Like set up your camera over top, right? Your phone, and just easy, your ring light, you set it up, have a piece of paper there, and show you working through the rule of 72, or work through something or map something out. Like that's amazing. There's a gentleman on YouTube that has it's a finger pointer that he has on the end of his pen, and he points, and goes through and educates with people, right? That's ingrained in our brain. That's behavioral stuff that we looked at before. So when we follow the bouncing ball is really what you're trying to do. You're following the bouncing ball. You're actually paying more attention. So again, very, very strong. And that's what we're meeting for Tap In. This is why we do all this stuff to help you with. So it's great. AEO, searchable content and videos. I love, I love, I love, I love, right? So videos for key life events. So we want to attract. This is about attracting in those pillars that we're going to do for the year, the non-negotiables, right? So this is where YouTube does a lot of heavy lifting for you. So advisors create simple, helpful videos on what to do when you receive an inheritance. Like how great would that be? Right? Just to have a bit of a conversation of the top things to look at first. So it's not solving or giving advice, but if you just said, here's the top 3 things to consider, right? And rest well, Grammy or whatever, do something nice at the end, right? Human on the end. Selling your business, the top things to prepare for. I think that's really interesting because that does get looked at a lot. Hence, that's why I have these points here, is because I did the research of the most searchable things, hint, hint. So I hope you're taking a picture of this and really writing it down. What to expect in your first retirement planning meeting. People are afraid. Retirement's this funny, funny, funny beast, right? And stats show that clients are actually at their most unease during retirement planning conversation because they have been programmed for however long they've worked to save, 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 save. Am I going to have enough? And now they're thinking, am I going to have enough? And they have to reverse this behavior, this habit. Again, the psychology here, guys, this habit that they've had for 30 years to actually now spend that money. That's a huge challenge, right? So imagine putting something together, just even recognizing that will help take the tension down. Divorce and finances, the first 3 steps. Again, don't give advice. Just say it is that whole part about this is the first 3 things to look at to make sure you have an order, right? So why does this matter? These videos meet your ideal client at their trigger moments, right? Exactly when they're searching. And this is, again, an underutilized, not thought about content. Because as soon as something happens, as soon as you have a trigger, you're Googling. So create content that will help with the triggers. That's my part. Derek, anything there?
A couple of things. One, the research end of this is so important. I put in the chat AEO, answer engine optimization, equals AI search. And although it's ironic, I found an article I had written just a few years ago about how desperately you don't want to be showing up when people are using AI. You don't want to be showing up in their AI replies. Everything's gone topsy-turvy. That is exactly where all of this is headed. Now, we'll get into the complications of AI search at a later date, but this is one of the ways that you can really take advantage of AEO. It's question and answer based. So, Kim, as you're saying here, one of the great things you can do is anticipate the questions. But research can feel just like shooting video, daunting and overwhelming. It's one of the things that we can help take off your plate. Again, this will be tailored to your particular ideal client profile, but going in and doing the research to get the actual, not keywords or long tail keywords that we used to use in SEO, but the actual questions your ideal client is typing in at those trigger moments when they're searching because something has come up that they desperately need an answer for. So it's one of the things that we are really dedicated to helping sort out for you because that's a heavy lift, going in and finding all of that information. And the other thing here, also, I was tempted to do that thing we used to do like way back when Zoom was the primary way we were communicating and do a, hey, raise your hand. But I'm going to spare everyone that. We've all had the experience. One of the things that people are going to YouTube for is they're going back to the same people over and over again because those people have built trust. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with my mom about this and
Mhm.
the people that she's following on YouTube because not only are they providing this valuable information, they're doing it in a charismatic way. And that's one of the things, whatever charisma looks like and feels like for you, where you're most comfortable and confident, that's the person that we want to capture on video because that's what people are going to keep coming back for. They want to be, and again, I know this is a danger area, so we want to be careful about this, but they want to be not only educated, but also entertained. And I would say, even more importantly for us, they want to feel reassured. They want the comfort of coming away from the content that you're providing them, feeling like they know the answer and they can trust the answer. If you show up, do that regularly in a way that is characteristically you, you're going to wind up building not just a following, but a new client base. So keep that in mind too, and be thinking about the ways where you feel most comfortable in terms of sharing information with the clients you're working with already.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you very much. There's some cool stats. So some people don't think I'm a data geek, but I'm a massive data geek. I'm a huge geek. And I look at things a lot and maybe it's a conspiracy theory and I go down rabbit holes. Maybe that's a better way to look at it. But two things I want to talk about that is truly important. So remember that time when we treated our food like toxic waste and it had to go sit out in the deck for, 24 hours and we couldn't touch it. It was called COVID, where the trading dollar was toilet paper. But the industry was celebrating. And there was one of the organizations who I won't mention was saying, life insurance sales are at an all-time high. This is incredible, even through the challenge of COVID and this like this. That is probably the greatest point I can make on a Google trigger moment. So the advisors who were online, who were findable, were writing policies left, right, and center because people were triggered. They were afraid. So the organizations, the research organizations were just like, oh, it's great. They're embracing this new technology because at that time we were going through the nightmares of electronic applications and all this stuff. So they were patting themselves on the back, but the data wasn't correct. That was just simply human behavior of people scared and they're going to buy at what cost to ease that pain, right? That was a big piece. The other part of my learning, especially now and especially in the world of AI, and it's not going to get much attention because we're the little ones that are in the background and are doing the real research. AI is not as powerful or taking over as they say. So there's massive research, even if you look into Amazon on their P&L and how things are performing and how profitable the chats are and all that kind of stuff. People are trusting less and less and less right now because they can sound like your grandma, they can, all this type of stuff. The messier, the better. And I've tested this stuff. When I look 100% put together. My hair's done, makeup's on, eyelashes are on, like everything's done up to the nines. Those videos get watched more purely because of what I look like. I'm going to be extremely honest. But when I show up in my bathrobe in my backyard because I just got out of the hot tub and I'm sipping and I'm having my 7 a.m. thoughts and I'm thinking and I hit record, I get incredible engagements in the DMs, conversations, and stuff like that because they trust me because I'm a real human being. They can see my blemishes. So it's something also to really keep in mind of if you decide to go down this path, do what is comfortable, but just don't overperform. Don't over sharpen it and polish it. Keep it very, very human so you can meet people where they are because they are very concerned. It's probably the best. Like the trust level is extremely low right now, right? Okay, to keep attracting and retaining our ideal client beyond business as usual as one of our markers. Build a warm referral bridge. This is great for networking. This is really good. Again, give it to grandma and just say, give this to your grandson. But this is an incredible way to build that bridge. So give clients a link to a playlist. So I love YouTube a lot and it's not hard to utilize. It's very, very user friendly. You can have subscribers in there. You can have a special subscription place. You can have playlists that you can put all together. It organizes your shorts. It organizes a lot of places. So jiggering it around and putting it together, that Sean's our guy that would do that for you. But it's very smart and it's very intuitive. So the playlist is that introduce who you are, what you're doing, what your philosophy is. So I told my friend about you. Here you go, right? So now they can see your style, understand your approach, come into the meeting already trusting you. So it becomes, again, a smoother, faster convert. So that show I was on last week, Empowered, that was brought on by the Globe and Mail or sponsored by the Globe and Mail. And it was funny. I coach financial advisors for a living. Not one financial advisor connected with me or said anything to me. But my Instagram blew up, my YouTube blew up, my email blew up, the Canadian Art Gallery, so many individuals came to me and quoted pieces from what I said, right? From totally different industries. They're like, I trust you. That you're saying about always be the buyer. Oh my goodness, I had to go watch it. So Sunday, I'm looking through all these, notes and putting these snapshots together, going, it's very interesting. And that how your voice is one of the first things, or how you carry yourself, how you make them feel. It doesn't matter what you do for a living, but how you make them feel. And here's the interesting part. When looking at all these individuals and profiling all these individuals, they would profile as my ideal client target market within the industry of financial services. So again, that's proof that it's not an industry when we're looking at niches or niches. It is mindset and behavior. That's what you profile to. That was such incredible validation on something I've been saying for years. It was wonderful. Derek, do you have anything for this one, hun?
Well, this really gets back to one of the points you were making about those intergenerational opportunities that exist. Again, if your current ideal client is a baby boomer, you're going to want to be having conversations with their children if they have children. And you want to keep those relationships because that's, as we all know, one of the other areas, whether it's a recently widowed wife, whether it's a recent divorcee, whether it's the children of current clients, the percentages are staggering on how many of those clients leave their current or their former advisor, the advisor that they've been with through a relationship, a partnership, through family. You want to make sure that those relationships that you have spent so much time cultivating continue through the generations. So be thinking about ways that you can create those conversations and again, utilize different platforms to speak, again, not in different ways per se, but in ways that speak more directly to each of those demographics. So gives you the opportunity again to not just create a referral bridge outside of your typical client base, but also to think about retention over the course of generations so that the children of your current clients feel welcomed. It's one of the reasons, from a copywriting perspective, I'm so insistent on changing the language we use, going from hooks to invitations. Because Kim, as so much of what you're saying here, and I know Jenna will have additional comments about this, when you welcome people into conversations, when you create stakes for them, where they feel reassured, where they feel and know that they have a stake in what is going on, you're creating a trusting relationship that will build loyalty. And that loyalty is not something you want to squander. It's so hard earned. So nurture it, continue to show up, and continue to build those bridges.
Amazing. Going back to my good old days when I used to be on the corporate side and utilizing this framework and what it is, a couple of the tactics that were extremely powerful and meaningful were the family meetings or the meetings with the beneficiaries or the trusted care partner or the POA, right? So just think about this, right? I used to say filling out an insurance policy when they're writing down the beneficiary, and after you're done, it's usually the last thing that you do, or leave it to the last thing that you do. Fill in who the beneficiary is for the insurance policy. Then after you're done, do you mind giving the contact information to Derek so that I can meet Derek? Because it's an extremely stressful time when something happens. I want us to have known and met each other already. So now let's update this with the technology now that we have. Imagine if there's a recording by an advisor that just says, when something, sorry for your loss, or, we will get our caption and our copy and our word doctor to work on that. But a beautiful introductory, my deepest condolences, whatever it may be. But having that on there of, I'm Derek's financial advisor. We have, stuff put together or whatever it may be. Here's my contact information. So even putting that extra piece in there too, with cadence, with voice, with how you do it, something short, simple, and clear. Can't be all fluffy and all that kind of stuff because people are in a mindset or in a state of trauma. They want clear, concise information. So imagine if that's there. It's very powerful, right? How to conduct a family meeting, right? Who wants what? Play a little game with bingo daubers and sticky notes and who wants what and why the rocking chair is going to Bobby or Sally, right? Have some fun and talk about these things in little snippets and have it there, right? And you can, again, drip it out to your clients because these are things beyond business as usual and beyond the product that you sell. Another advisor, we're just trying it, and he's going to release it soon after Christmas of the top 5 things to do in our area in the wintertime. And we went and highlighted the really cool where you can go eat beaver tails, the greatest toboggan hills, right? All that kind of stuff. They're serving their clients. They're talking to his ideal client about the big things in their lives. We think the big things in their lives is their tax and their insurance and their optimization is not at all, right? But if we show them that we see this is the big things in your life, that trust again, bigger and bigger and bigger. So demonstrate your personality and your process. So to retain, we want to retain our ideal client. So once per quarter, create a personal style video behind the scenes of planning. So what does it look like? It's so weird to me that the number one video to this day is that day in the life with me. So you probably have all seen it. The influencers pretend to get out of bed and just stretch and they've got their eyelashes on already and they look beautiful. But they get up and they walk to get their coffee and they press the button and they do that and they take a sip and they show the day in the life. And that is trending to this day. The most watched videos. People want to know your everyday life. So behind the scenes of what planning looks like in a real way. And we want to do this with someone. I have someone in mind that we want to try this summer of, I don't want to make it a script. I want us just hanging out with cameras and capturing it, like real life capturing it. Because I want it to be real as possible. Because nothing drives me more crazy. Derek knows this. of people setting up fake experiences when they're talking to the computer and pretending they're coaching a client drives me bonkers. But so it's my it's my job and my vision that I want to show realness as much as we can. Right? So let people know what you're reading again. Oh my gosh, especially this time of year. My top 5 books, right? I'm about to write a blog about myself about the greatest business book I ever read. And it's not a business book. It's a book called Big Magic, if everyone wants to know, and it's about creativity. But it's the number one business book I have ever read. So imagine sharing that with your clients, right? A story from your own financial journey on how it works. It was very funny. There used to be a lot of arguments around in Canada, and still is. If someone has had financial troubles or gone through bankruptcy and come out of it or whatever, it's very hard to get licensed or contracted. But it's also on the other side, it's very interesting on, okay, it happens with people. It just happens. Sometimes it's situations, sometimes it's medical, right? And they pull their way through it. Imagine sharing that story of how I pulled my way through it because this is why it's so important. This is how the finfluencers are actually so popular and making so much money. It's because they're showing their personal struggle and their story. Of course, they've come out of it, but it's that zero to hero story. Everybody loves a good zero to hero story, right? So just showing what you're comfortable with of something that you have overcome. It's the basic outline of writing any type of story. There's always a hero, there's always a villain, there's always a quest to a greater cause. Depending on who's the hero or the villain is depending on what side of the story you're on. But those are so important, right? So clients want you for a relationship, not for returns. And this reaffirms and keeping this relationship so strong. But again, just like little snippets. This is blogs. I keep thinking about Sean, like us writing a story for him around him being absolutely batshit crazy insane, running all these marathons all over the place. But that's an important story that needs to be shared, right? The one I'll never forget the story when he was running across Lake Winnipeg and it was minus 40. Like, let's tell that story about what you learned. People love that. They absolutely do. Derek.
I put in the chat another one of those business books that wouldn't even show up on the radar of business books, the Tao Te Ching, which is a collection of
Mm.
poetry. Um, but it's one of the most profound, reflective, insightful works. This is another great reminder of how important it is to stay in your lane, but to also look outside of it, um, because that's where all of the ideas live, right? You want to continue to refine your expertise. You want to show up consistently with your messaging. You want to be, again, not just an educator, but a personality. I don't want to say celebrity because that tips this over into the wrong, right, the wrong direction in terms of what we're talking about here. But you want to be visible in ways that are relatable to people. Where, as you were saying earlier, Kim, I almost actually started crying because in those moments of vulnerability, people look for trusted resources. They look for people who are going to help them. And it's one of the most extraordinary things that advisors are given the opportunity to do, to be that person in people's lives.
Yeah.
There is nothing like when you are going through a loss, a divorce, an unexpected illness, to feel comforted, to know that the little things that are weighing on you, that you're thinking about, that you don't know if you have in place or not, or if that document has been updated, there is nothing like the relief that comes from that. So being able to demonstrate your personality is so important because that's what brings the process to life. And that's what people are going to remember. They're going to remember the feeling. They're going to remember that sense of relief that you brought, that sense of reassurance, the friendliness, the kindness. When you mentioned the video about the top 5 things to do, I'm thinking, I want to go there, right? And that's something else to be thinking about. It's not just you're speaking to your ideal client. Again, you're also reaching outside to give people who are wondering, well, I don't live in the area. Is this for me? You don't seem to work with people who are in my circumstances, but I really like what you're doing. Would you work with me? Giving people the opportunity to understand that that's a possibility, that provides you with even greater traction and it gives you more opportunities to have those valuable conversations.
Showing that you're human, right? We forget how important that is. We think we need to show up a certain way, right? These identities that we talk about all the time. But it is this part of showing someone that you're human, that you're real, that you're not robotical, that you can have conversation with. This is why I think about AI so much. I need to talk to someone and feel comfortable around it. I really do.
Yeah.
And it's why that most of my podcasts go viral because I show up with personality.
Yeah.
There's not an edit button. Sometimes I shouldn't hit the F it button so many times, but I have to be a little bit careful. But being the number one podcast on Top Advisor Marketing Podcast out of 500 episodes, and there's some huge icons on there for nobody at the time to show up. It was my first podcast ever doing.
What was the name of the book, Kim? You said your business book.
The one that I love is
Yeah,
Big Magic.
Big Magic.
Elizabeth Gilbert wrote it. And she's the one that actually wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do like that you say clients hire you for relationship, not just returns. That back to the sales 101.
Sales.
It's not how much you know, it's how much you care.
It
Yeah.
really always,
Yeah.
always, 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 always agree. Yeah, totally, totally agree. There's so much. I love YouTube just because you can track the metrics, right? Because you even you share something with a client. It tracks to see if someone's viewed it, right? You can list it publicly if you want, or you can keep it unlisted and people can just only watch it. Whoever has the link can watch it. There's different parts of security that you can utilize. I love YouTube and I actually think it's a very, very, very smart integration on how to put it together. And again, this is where our team does to help you with your own strategy and your own parts, right? Because you pair every business goal with a corresponding video too. So like serve attract. And when I'm looking at this, right, the advisor wants to attract business owners. So make videos around the business. But again, there's some kind of parts where I talk about tax or things like that here, yes. But I want you to really understand what this means, right? So if the advisor wants to attract more business owners, make 3 videos on how to sell a business, right? If they want to serve more physicians, make videos on burnout or what does the call schedule look like? How complexity is? How do you save the time? Understand that you understand their life, right? If you want to deepen a retiree conversation, make 3 videos on withdrawals or how to withdraw or pension or longevity, right? What does retirement look like? The one that I was talking about before, we're scripting out a bunch of videos on how to you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but I know this is going to be wonderful because, well, I just know. But there's videos on how to parent safe their home. Rugs, slips, falls, trips, railings, expired food. It's one of the number one killers, excuse me for saying it that way, of deaths of elderly people. Right? They never look at the expiry on boxes or anything like that. And a lot of them get food poisoning. Right? So the videos we're doing, so he works with retirees and it's videos and directions around how to we got to find a term. Derek, we need a term for this because I don't know. I don't want to say elder proof. It just doesn't sound right. But just how do you set up their home in the right way? So this aligns tightly where the advisor wants to grow. So imagine especially us sandwich generation people, right? When we have elderly parents and you're raising kids and you're like, I got to take care of this one and that one, but I want to make sure mom's okay, right? What do you think, Derek?
Well, again, this is, you're creating content for a specific purpose. And I think that that's one of the most daunting aspects of any content creation that you do. It feels overwhelming because there's so much involved. When you begin to break down the reasons behind why you're shooting a video as opposed to writing a long form article, or why you're creating a clip of this video, who you're speaking to. Once you begin to have a clear sense about what the purpose is for each piece of content you're creating, it becomes so much simpler, right? It takes so many of the variables out. And again, it gives the people you're speaking to even greater confidence, and you create more trustability at that point. You're not just talking to most retirees. You're talking to Jane, who just lost her husband. You're talking to Bill, who is experiencing an identity crisis because he had placed so much of his identity in his business. So it gives you the opportunity to really speak specifically to people's concerns. As you said earlier, Kim, their fears. I would say their aspirations as well. So getting clarity there is really important. And then, as you're saying, in terms of the content itself, this is another opportunity for you to create that personalized library that everyone's trying to sell you. Right?
Yep.
We're going to give you the built-in library so that if you're creating content like this, you're building that library yourself, and there's nothing you can buy that's of greater value than that, because this is all coming from your experience, your expertise, your heartfelt messaging. So that's something else I think that's really important to emphasize here.
I can confidently say, maybe it sounds egotistical, but I have the data and the proof behind it. Those packages won't work, or that people like come to you say, we'll create your videos, or we'll do all this, or we'll take care of your media. It'll never work, but through us, it does. Because we actually help you define that individual, the tone, what to do, what hits, what resonates, right? That's that part that is missing so much, right? This beginning part, because if you're watching this for the first time, or it's your first experience with us, and this is what everyone kind of talks about and gives these ideas, and we're giving you an overview, but as soon as I know that you are Ryan Canfield and you serve millennials, and we're going to go do a whole bunch of shoots on how to pack the lunches for the kiddos while you're going to the baseball game, and talking about that you've had, your generation and the understanding that you've gone through the three biggest crashes that have ever happened, or challenges, right?
Yeah.
Then people are going to start watching your content. Then people are going to start to relate to you, right? That's that big, powerful part that not very many people are brave enough to say, right, you can't handle the truth. And we're telling the truth.
Well, and Kim, too, I think another way of putting this is so many agencies skip the big work.
Right.
They're able to deliver the UVP, they're able to deliver the ideal client profile, but the big work is missing that goes into all of that energizes it, that makes it truly yours. And I think that step is such a differentiator. And also, it gives so much confidence to advisors. And I know there are a number of people on this call who can speak to this because they've had the opportunity to do that big work with you. I just think that aspect of it, it's the work before the work really begins that sets you up for success. And it streamlines so much of these processes that we're outlining.
Yeah. Yeah. Freedom, it requires payment up front. It really does, right? So the last one, and then I'm just going to wrap this up because I think we're just clicking away at time here. Make one signature philosophy video. I think this is great too, because you also see people, if you follow anyone on social media too, but this can live on your website, you can send it out. But what's your one signature philosophy video, right? To attract and retain so people really know who you are. Why do you do this work? Who do you help? Why do you believe in about money? And what does financial calm mean to yourself, or whatever it may be? Calm is all about something that you train, and we can go into that later on too. But this really matters. It differentiates you again too. When you have this, I call it flag in the ground statement. This is who I am. And we've gone through all this work to make sure that yeah, I know who I am, right? Because this blueprint that we keep talking about, and we're going to keep pulling this up, there are 4 stages to this, right? That whole structure part is there. But without having this, right, your unique value proposition, your pillars, and understanding what your formula story is, anything you do afterwards will not perform to your desired success. It just won't. Everything gets clouded up. A lot of people want to go do videos or blogs or all this, but who are you talking to? Right? How does this get through? Where do they live? What is the cadence? There's so many questions. And that's what we help you with through Tap In like you're doing today with us, one-on-one, or through Enriched. I went really quick through that. Next one is December 22nd. I've got a lot of notes already saying a lot of people can't make the 22nd. So I think I'm going to let it go and not do the 22nd. And then we'll start the Story Lab, I think, in the new year is probably a better idea. Love all your faces. Have an incredible day, everyone. And we'll see you all soon. Bye bye.